more energetic introduction this time because Michael took issue with my last introduction, and so we don't want to start off on a bad foot again with Michael like bringing it. We were at like a level 10. Michael just came in, peed all over everything, and then then we had to kind of like go all over the place, but. We're back, right? This is energy. This is fun, and what we're going to be talking about today. Maybe I went a little bit too far with the peeing thing, but who cares, right? I am joining you today from the studio in Alpharetta. Michael is in his studio in whatever state he happens to be living in. I think it's what is it, Montana? Is that right?
Iowa. No,
Iowa.
Idaho.
So it's an I state, right? It's an I state. No, he is in the great state of Idaho, and we are the host of the MLO project. Michael, how's it going, buddy?
I'm great, man. I'm great. I really like that intro.
Like that
we went a little bit off the rails with the commentary, but I like the Bruce Buffer style. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, perfect. I like it. And guys, look, our tagline is "We go off the rails," right? So that's the tagline for this podcast because why do things normal, right? Like, why do things like that's easy to, like predictable? Who wants to listen to that, right? Who wants to some predictable podcast? We're talking about peeing on stuff. Like, I mean, come on, right? Like, you're not going to get that anywhere else, right?
I know I wouldn't want to record it. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, so. I know. Maybe I'll edit that out. Feeling cute might delete later, but. What are we talking about today? We are talking about, we're running some really cool projects at Empower for some of our clients when it comes to, visualization. And, as a coach, this is something that, I try to instill in all of my members when the visualization takes a lot of different keys, right? Or a lot of different, forms. Visualization meanings like you need to visualize your success, like where you're trying to go, right? And sometimes that's a picture, sometimes that's like a vision board, right? Or like a goal board, like there's some things like that from a visual, like see yourself where you're at, see yourself how what's the feeling like when you've accomplished that, in 12 months, what does that feeling look like? Where are you at? Like what are you doing with your family? Are you on vacation? Like how are you celebrating? Like that type of visualization. But then there's the visualization that to me really matters, and that's like managing and measuring as you go, like on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to your objectives, to your key targets, right? To your ultimate goals for whether it's the quarter or the year. Like, how are you measuring? How are you visualizing those things? And a lot of that takes place in using different dashboards. Those are the things that we're building, for our clients. And Michael's going to talk a little bit about that and just kind of like some of that piece of it. But ultimately, one thing I could tell you, I just because when I'm thinking about visualization, we're thinking about like gamification, like leaderboards and stuff like that. And there's a lot of different tools and things you could use for that. I remember a conversation. I don't know why it just popped in, but like I think just because my coach's hat, like it just tends to like bring me there. But I remember one time at my mortgage company, we're talking to like me, the production head, couple other like. Branch managers were like, hey, we need like a company leaderboard, right? And we want something that they can visualize, see, because I always hear like, oh, like loan officers are competitive, like we like to compete, and then like literally like the first response that came from like I remember this so vividly is like, well, what about the people that don't see themselves on the leaderboard or they feel like they're not and I was like. I remember me and the head of production just kind of looked at each other and we're like, dude, what, WTF, man? Like, what are you talking? Like, this is the whole point of doing this stuff is hopefully like, are you guys competitive or not? Right. And then ultimately is like, if someone really is offended or like doesn't like to see that, like, do we really want that caliber of loan officer at our company? And so like, and I said that, and of course, got the whole like, whatever. We ended up doing it for like we made it like an opt-in for the branches that wanted to compete and stuff like that. Because in essence, like most mortgage companies that I know, at least, in fact, every mortgage company that I've been either a consultant or or my own company, like you always had you sent out what everyone's numbers were at the end to all the sales team. So to me, is like, why would you not like have that as a running thing every single day? Well, I mean, we didn't like broadcast like people that had no loans, right? But ultimately it's like, look, either they're going to like rise to the occasion or they're just going to fall back in their, same shit. And if that's the case, like, who wants them anyway? Like that was my mentality on it is like, because to me it's like I want that to be a bug in some people's bonnet to make them want to do more loans, right, do more volume, bring in more units, compete, say, oh, that guy sucked, right. I've had loan officers say, like, literally they've been in the branch with like 17, 20 other loan officers and are like, man, that dude's terrible, but he's doing more business than me, right. So he's like, I want to
Yep.
I want to beat that, and that's what that's what we're talking about. I think on Bryce's episode, if I remember right, like he was talking about, like, I'm seeing these guys do really well that don't do shit, and I know if that, like, I do my stuff with the same, like, and just add that to it, like, I'm gonna do like 10 times as much, 20 times as much, right. And he's
Exactly.
he was right. So, like, that's to me like what you want the visualization for. That's why you want the leaderboards for. That's why you want that, is to, because that's who you want as a company. Otherwise,
Yep.
why do you want people that don't want to, like, be great? Like, I just will never get that. So, like, let's talk about, kind of like, the conversations you're having with our clients that are doing these same things, right? You mentioned Bryce, like his company's building that out, like, for volume board and stuff like that. So, like, let's, talk to me about that.
Yeah. I mean, on the way here to record this morning, I'm reflecting and thinking about, like, okay, what are some of the things that some of our bigger clients have in common, and literally, like, smacked me in the face right away. No, not literally, figuratively. That would be the better way.
Michael's like driving, swerving all the way. Some ghost smack in the face.
Bitch slap. No, no, it did hit me though that almost all of our enterprise clients right now, and then a lot of our individual LO clients right now, there's just this theme that everybody is kind of focused and recognizing the value of tracking progress towards goals visually, like visually representing your progress towards goals. And for some, for some that's graduated into leaderboards and competition and gamification and stuff like that. But at the most basic level, it's just tracking where you're at, your numbers. It doesn't even have to necessarily, like, we have kind of a spectrum of this, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, we have a spectrum that ranges from a dashboard that just shows the number of leads received this month, the number of calls completed this month, the number of applications received this month, and the number of loans closed this month, right? That's one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got a client that's got a gamified competition going on with point values for different activities and teams, where we're grouping those points, and they're doing this in order to actually get tickets to the tag event, to get tickets to tag. We'll have to release this before.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
we'll have
shit,
to release.
that.
That's
Yeah.
all right.
No, we'll get it. This will be in before tag. Tickets may, by the time you guys hear this, they were, like, as of right now, as of the recording, they are like 90% sold out. So by the time you hear this, it may in fact be sold out. But that's your problem. It's because our clients are gamifying it and getting their loan officers there. So.
Exactly. You'll have to put it on the calendar for next year. So, so they've got like a competition going on who's gonna get to tag based on like outbound phone activities, and so they've converted those phone activities into point values, and those point values are going towards a leaderboard and all that stuff. So that's the other end of the spectrum. So it was just like, man, this is really important. Obviously, working with Bryce's team, everything that we're building out on his dashboard is something that already exists in a Google sheet that they like invest time in every single month, manually calculating stuff. Why? Because it's that important for them to have a visual of where they're at in relationship to like their year goals, their quarter goals, etc. And so, we're doing quite a bit of different things. A lot of the stuff revolves around dashboards and high level because they're so flexible and you can do like so much with them. But for some of the advanced stuff, we're pulling in, we were able to do the whole gamification and points thing using Google Sheets and high level, a conjunction of those two. But then we also use a tool called Zoho Analytics, where we pull in like live databases into Zoho Analytics, and you can create charts and all this stuff. So got quite a few different things, and it was an interesting reflection. Like, we don't, it's not like we are massive and have thousands and thousands of clients. So the fact that where we have so many projects going on right now that revolve around this just felt significant enough for us to have an episode on.
Yeah, and guys, we do have thousands of clients. It's Michael's
Millions.
millions and billions of clients. But to the point is that like when you're thinking about visualization, right? And you're an originator, is if you're really owning your day and tracking your actions, tracking your activities, it's nice to see that chart because sometimes you forget, right? You forget, like, did I get things done this week that I needed to? Did I show up the best? And sometimes there's just internal checks that you have, but it's great to just see a running tally of like, I did make the calls, I sent out the gratitude, videos, I did do my pipeline updates, I did do all these things, and all these things that we know that moves forward. I know one thing, that we've done in the past. We had, I think we did it like as kind of an Olympics. But we had different points value based off of certain activities using like how many TCAs did you send out in Mortgage Coach, or how many times did you use the cost of waiting tool in MBS Highway, like different things in the different tools, the CRM, like how many like outbounds did you do on your in a campaign, or reach out via phone, or all these other things, because the more touch points you have, the more activities, the more action you take, the more business you're going to get. It's the same thing as like, yeah, how many people do you know? The more people you know, the more business you're going to do. It's not complicated, right? When it comes down to it, it really isn't. It's simple. Now, is it easy to do all the things? That's relative, right? Like, like for example, is it easy to physically make a phone call? Yes, it's very easy to physically make a phone call, but is it easy to actually like get in the mindset to like do all these things and all, and get in your head for 5 minutes? Like, what am I going to say? How am I reaching out? All that other stuff. Yes, I know it's not, always easy, like, quote unquote easy, but none of this stuff is hard, right? And there's a reason why when you're looking at that's, because Michael mentioned some of our clients that are, that have good, quality top producers at their shops, and the reason they do this is because it works, right? It works. It gets those people, and especially like when you're thinking about like the top producers, like they want to be on top, they want to stay on top, and so they like seeing that visualization is like, man, I'm winning, right? And I'm winning, and sometimes it's great to see other people drive, and then not only that, but this is what I've seen someone that really hasn't been in like that top producer like vein as far as like their their monthly volume and stuff like that. And I remember the look on their face when they got mentioned in a part, like they saw that like they were in the top 5, right? And they never were ever in the top 5, and then they were in the top 5, and that face of that look of accomplishment and that feeling, like that's what these measurements do. That's what visualization does. It helps them succeed. And now, do you think they want to like let that feeling go away? Do you think that sense of accomplishment they felt like, hey, I'm in the top 5, like what do I need to do to be in the top slot? And this is why companies do these things. And so my question to all of you that's listening to this episode is, are you visualizing your success, right? Are you making the measurements of like how many, like what were my calls today, right? And these are things that I coach on, not just me, like pretty much every coaching company that I know of does these activity trackers, right? I think Core calls it like the greatness tracker or something like that. Yep. Right? Like, so like it's all these different things of like, what are you doing to create action and activity in day? But not only that, like visualize it, right? Create a dashboard on it, and it doesn't have to be complicated. Like that when DC and I did the Green Zone cohort, right? Like it's just spreadsheets, right? Like, I mean, yeah, I made some cool like Canva, things for whatever, but like ultimately, like it's just, you don't have to overcomplicate it, right? It's spreadsheets, and Michael mentioned like the flexibility of high level, right? Like you grab those things and throw them right into which I didn't even know, right? And I actually found that out like prior to getting on this call, that like you can do that shit, and I was like, oh, well, that's awesome, right? Because like some of the dashboards that are built in aren't great, but like if I could build in my own stuff and then frame it into my own dashboard, even better. And again, if it's just a Google sheet, I don't need to make it like super, crazy or interactive. I just want to see it. And here's a cool thing, right? I just like, this is kind of an aside, but the cool thing is you could do, a lot of people don't know this, but like you can create interactive dashboards that you can share within Claude. Using Claude as the AI tool, is that you could upload spreadsheets and it will read the data and create active dashboards off those I think they use React is the engine that they use. But
That you can drill down into and like click the bar and it'll
100%,
pull
like,
up the
yeah.
data and shit. That's cool.
It's in within Claude that you could use it, but you could actually share that interactive dashboard publicly. And now anyone could go there and click and look. Like you could, put in, like, if you have like a 300-page report, you could have it go through, create an interactive dashboard to find the salient detail. It will make the bar graphs. Now it's not super pretty, right? But ultimately, like, it fits the bill. It's better than me like having to like go brain dead reading like a 300-page report, right? Like, give me the bar graphs, give me the scales, give me like the important information. You could do the same thing. Is you could create like a ugly spreadsheet and then throw it into the Claude and actually create an interactive dashboard. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, I should do that and see if I could pull that into high level, because that would actually be kind of cool to throw that in there too. But like, guys, like, this is what we're talking about, right? Like, is are you measuring, are you tracking, are you visualizing your output every single day, every single week, month? And if you're not, why? Like, why are you not doing these things? And because ultimately it's going to get you to where you want to go, and honestly it's going to get you there faster.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about leading versus lagging measures, because we've talked a lot about measuring and tracking, production and sizing up production compared to other people in your branch or company or whatever, and that's cool. And there is a lot of benefit in that. I love the idea of unlocking in your mind what's possible based on seeing what other people are doing. That's something that I've always gotten a benefit from. But a lot of this tracking for the top producers that we work with starts with the activities, and like you said, activity tracker, greatness tracker, etc. And not the cool thing about tracking is that you're going to find out that not all activities have a direct correlation with your production. Yep. Not all activities that you do are going to be revenue generating activities, are going to be efficient revenue generating activities, but you don't get the opportunity to scrutinize those and evaluate which ones are the ones that you want to invest more in, or which ones would be which areas would be best to hire somebody so that you can scale that, or so that you can invest more in a different area. You don't know any of that stuff until you're tracking. And when I say tracking leading measures versus, like, if you don't know what leading versus lagging is, at this point, like, it's pretty self-explanatory. Your lagging measures are your metrics, your metrics that measure the results, like the end result that you're looking for, basically the things that aren't actual. Like, if I'm measuring loan volume, I don't know how I got that loan volume. The lagging measure is the loan volume. The leading measure is what resulted in that loan volume. The things like the phone calls, right? The things like the realtor meetings, the things like the number of referrals that I've received, the number of leads that I've received, etc. And then when you look at number of leads received, like, that could be considered a lagging measure if you're looking in the context of, again, the number of referral partnerships established, the number of thank you cards sent out, the number of, blah, blah, blah. And so getting upstream to those leading measures and identifying what the most important daily activities are in your business to get the results that you're looking for. And even if you don't have a target on those, like, I think getting a target as soon as possible, getting to a point where you can give yourself a goal as soon as possible is important. But that's not always the first step. Sometimes the first step is just to observe. Sometimes the first step is just to measure and observe. So I want to start measuring the number of phone calls that I make every day. And then within a week, I'm going to look at that and I'm going to say, oh, holy shit, I'm not making nearly as many phone calls as I thought I was, or I'm not making nearly enough phone calls to get to the goals that I'm trying to get to. That's what stems from focusing on the leading measures, figuring out how you get the results that you're trying to get. If you don't know for sure, then do your damnedest, stick some numbers up there that you think are those activities, and then pay really close attention to them so that you can, as I said earlier, scrutinize them and swap them out with different activities if you find that you're not actually, but this is never going to be the case, but if you were, for example, to find that you don't actually go up in loan volume when you go up in the number of phone calls that you're making, then it might be time to look at a different metric to evaluate. And so, like I said, those leading measures, and even if you're not like by the time you're measuring production as a loan officer and tracking your production on a chart, by the time you're doing that, you're at a point where you can't really have an impact on that other than for 3 months down the road. That's the shitty thing about mortgages. We're always 90 to 120 days out from the rewards for our efforts today. And so we got to measure those leading measures, those things that are going to result in the production and the targets that we're aiming for.
Yeah, and you said a lot of big words there, and I understand all of them, so I'm going to treat that as disrespect. But just kidding. Little shout out to 40-year-old virgin there. But I think when you think about, when I look at leading versus lagging, is leading is foresight, right? It's proactiveness. It's when people look at like forecasting, when we forecasted volume, like that's a leading measure, right? Like that's leading. The lagging is what happened, looking back at like kind of like what you said. And so when you're looking at it, from the activities is because you got to understand, because you said something important there at the end, when what, and this is something as a coach that I again try to focus on, is that like the things you do today, like they don't really matter until 30 days. In those 30 days, that doesn't really matter for like 60 days. That 60 days doesn't really matter until the 90 days, right? Or longer. So basically meaning like, and the reason I try to frame it that way is that like every day that you decide not to do something, you put yourself 7 days behind, right? And so like, I want people to understand is like when you decide not to make the calls or do the activities, the flyer, whatever it is, like the mailers, the things that you are doing based off of how you're measuring and your data and whatnot, like you're putting yourself behind. And so you're not, the results you do today, because we're ROI focused, like instant gratification, you're not going to get the rewards. Like Michael said, you're not going to get the rewards for another 90 or 120 days. But it's funny how these things, kind of come together, because I was having a call with, a loan officer, and they were like, hey man, like I'm actually doing, really well right now. Like I'm really busy. And then they said like, and I don't know why. And that again, right there, right. I don't know why. And that's where we got into the whole, leading versus lagging, is like, you need to go back, you need to go back 90 days to figure out, what seeds were you planting? Like, what are you doing? Because ultimately the law officers just do that. They just kind of like, they get up, they do their thing, they go to sleep, whatever. No analytics, no measurement, no visualization, no nothing. And then the 90 days hit, they're really busy, and they're like, I don't know why. And it's like, how do you replicate that? How do you make it so it's proactive on an everyday basis, so that those 90 days continue to happen? And that's when I talk about like, the actions that you're taking, is that's how you feel. That's how you feel a pipeline that just does not quit. Because ultimately, if you're running it takes you time to ramp up, but once you're there, if you are consistent with it, then you're going to consistently be within that zone of whatever your forecasting is. That's why, like, when we would do forecasting, we would see like some branch would be like, like they were mostly off because they didn't do any of that type of stuff, right? Like their forecasting didn't really mean anything because they weren't there, right? They didn't have the measurements. They didn't have any of that stuff. And that's why the dashboards play, and that's why having these measures and understanding like how to really forecast, really how to be proactive and looking at the things, the activities that the lagging is the outcomes, right? Those are the results. What did it take to get there? And then you're like going to work your way back, and that's how you create your strategy and your planning and your forecasting. That's how you do it. But we don't do that. And and there's a reason why you do these things, because then and the more data for example, if we just base it off the normal like feelings as a loan originator, like I do all of these things, and they don't realize that like there's like if they spent, like if you take it as like 100%, and they spend 20% on a certain thing, they spend 50% on another thing, 10%, 20% on these other things, given different slices of the pie of their time, right? And then come to realize, and they don't know, but they're like the 50%, which is like them like calling agents or whatever. That's the one that they feel comfortable with. That's the one that in their mind they feel is the one that's giving in whatever. They had no idea that it was the 20% of the time that they spent doing this is what led to 70% of their business, right? And so that's why you have these things, so that you know that you're spending the right time. And to Michael's point is that like, if I'm scaling, do I hire someone to allow me to maximize even more time on that percentage of activities that is leading me to the higher percentage of outcome and results? And it's going to be hard for you to do that just by feelings, right? Like you got to have things that you can measure, and you need to have a visual representation so you know and can track. And also, guys, it doesn't last forever. Certain things may last for a certain season, ups and downs, and then you can't adjust. How are you going to adjust and like push this button or pull this lever if you don't know exactly what's going to happen 30, 60, 90 days down the road when you do that?
Yeah. Amen, man. Amen. That I got nothing to add to that. Honestly, I think I think we killed this one.
He's speechless.
I think we killed it, dude. I didn't plan on it being this good, but it just, money.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you came up with the idea, I was like, man,
it
probably is not going to be a good episode, but we'll do it. We'll do it anyway. But
surprise myself.
No, this is good, guys, because like, look, success is a project, right? Success is a project, and what are you gonna do? What are you gonna build? What are you gonna architect? Like, what daily actions are you gonna take? And this is just one of them. This is an important one, and because of the privilege that Michael and I get from our seats in the industry of working with all different types of loan officers, all different markets, all different ways of doing it, and seeing these common denominators, right? Seeing the things that basically overlap no matter where they are, and seeing like, these are the positive results. We get to share all of that with you, which is this episode. And so now, what are you going to do with it? Like, how are you going to take this? Because we like to have fun and whatever. We want this to be educational. We want it to provide value, and also just something that's just a little different for you. But ultimately, we want this thing to help. Like, we want this podcast and what we talk about to help you do better and get what you want out of this great industry that you really can't start from nothing and become anything that you want, right? Like, I know some people that have made a crazy life for themselves that didn't even graduate high school because they went all in on this industry, made a good amount of money helping people, doing all the stuff that they do, took that money, created, other companies, ancillary lines. That, like, guys, like, this is one of the few industries that you could pretty much make anything from yourself. I'm proof of that, right? Michael's proof of that, right? Like, I mean, there's so many other people that are as well. And, it's really up to you what you want to do it, but this is important. But this is foundational, right? This is foundational if that's where you want to go.
Amen.
All right. Well, on that, hallelujah, amen. We're going to end this episode of the MLO Project. My friends, if by the time you're listening to this podcast, if Tag still isn't sold out, get your seats. We're going to be doing a pre-tag event. I got 2 hours with a lot of great people and Michael. And so like, there's just going, just kidding. Michael didn't get that joke, but it's all right. But
no,
a lot of great people.
Took me a second.
And Michael. No, we have a lot of great people that are going to hang around, like Hammer, Jonathan Haddad, Christine Beckwith, myself, Darren Copeland, just a lot of cool people for 2 hours. That we're just going to be hanging out and helping loan officers, and it's free. It's free, and guys, we only have like room for like 90 people, and there's going to be like 900 people or 1,000 people at this event. So make sure you get your ticket, get everything that you can for the event. We will see you there. And look, if we can help you out at Empower, we have a free Facebook group that's open to everyone. The official, unofficial Facebook group of High Level for the mortgage industry. And then if we have what we do, and if it's something that you think you can use our help in getting you to where you want to go, all the things that we talk about, there really isn't another CRM out there that does what we do, right? And we're not saying that we're better, but we're definitely different than other ones. And
I'm saying we're better.
Michael's not shy. Like, he'll say he's better. I'm saying we're different, so we're different and better. than the competition. But nobody does what we do. Nobody does what we do with everything that we do in the community that we've built, and the support and the just the content and everything that we provide. It truly is next level, and so we would love to have you part of that. If that is something that you need, if not, you continue coming back, being a subscriber and member. At some point, we'll win you over. But until next time, on behalf of M Squared, I am Frazier, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.